We live in a world that measures emotional control like a skill on a resume. The ability to keep your face neutral during difficult conversations. The capacity to receive bad news without your voice breaking. The strength to sit through a funeral, a breakup, a moment of overwhelming beauty, and remain composed. This is what we call maturity. This is what we call having it together. And then there are the people who cry at commercials, who feel their eyes sting during a song they've heard 100 times before, who well up when someone shares good news, when a character in a movie finally gets what they've been hoping for, when the light hits a certain way at sunset, who find themselves wiping away tears during conversations that aren't even particularly sad, just honest. These people hear the same question over and over, asked with varying degrees of concern or confusion. Why are you crying? Sometimes it comes with a hand on the shoulder, sometimes with visible discomfort, sometimes with the kind of pity usually reserved for children who've scraped their knees. There's an assumption threaded through that question, an assumption that something has gone wrong, that the tears are excessive, disproportionate, a response that doesn't quite match the moment. And the people who cry easily learn to apologize. I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm like this. As if their eyes are malfunctioning. As if their tears are an inconvenience they're inflicting on the room. They learn to excuse themselves, to turn away, to develop elaborate strategies for hiding what their body insists on doing. They press their palms against their eyes. They focus on their breathing. They make jokes about being a crier, with a laugh that sounds like an apology. They've been taught in 1,000 small ways that this part of them is too much. But what if the question itself is wrong? What if, "Why are you crying?" is the wrong thing to ask? What if the better question is, "Why isn't everyone?" Because here's what we rarely stop to consider. Crying isn't a malfunction. It's not your nervous system failing to do its job. It's your nervous system doing exactly what it was designed to do, responding with precision to what's real. When you cry easily, you're not being weak. You're being honest. Your body is refusing to pretend that the world isn't as beautiful, as painful, as absurdly meaningful as it actually is. While others have learned to buffer themselves, to create distance between what they feel and what they show, your response remains direct, immediate, true. Think about what it takes to not cry. It requires suppression. It requires you to intercept the signal your body is sending and actively shut it down. To feel the tightness in your throat and swallow it back. To notice the heat behind your eyes and force them to stay dry. This is control. But control and strength are not the same thing. People who cry easily haven't failed at emotional regulation. They've simply refused to over-regulate. They've declined the invitation to become numb. And there's something else happening here, something that psychology has begun to understand only recently. The tears aren't random. They're not arbitrary responses to insufficient triggers. They're connected to a particular kind of nervous system sensitivity, one that takes in more information, processes more deeply, responds more fully to the emotional texture of existence. Researchers talk about sensory processing sensitivity, about people whose brains are wired to notice subtleties that others miss. The shift in someone's voice when they're pretending to be okay. The weight of unspoken sadness in a room. The profound tenderness of an ordinary moment made briefly extraordinary. These aren't imagined sensitivities. They show up on brain scans. They're measurable, observable, real. When you cry easily, you're often responding not just to what's in front of you, but to everything beneath it. The history, the context, the significance that others might sense but not fully feel. You're moved because you're paying attention in a way that requires your whole body to participate. And tears are what happens when feeling exceeds the capacity of language. Your body knows things your mind hasn't fully articulated yet. It knows when you're safe enough to let go. It knows when something matters more than you've admitted. It knows when you're holding more than you can carry, even if you've been carrying it so long you've stopped noticing the weight. Crying is how your body completes the circuit. It's a release, yes, but it's also a form of processing. When you cry, your nervous system is literally metabolizing emotion. It's moving experience through you instead of storing it in your chest, your shoulders, your jaw. It's refusing to let feeling fossilize into tension. This is why people often feel lighter after crying. Not because the sadness has disappeared, but because it's been acknowledged, been given space, been allowed to move. The tears are the evidence that you're not just enduring your life, you're actually living it. But here's where it gets more complex. For some people, crying easily isn't just about sensitivity. It's about history, about a nervous system that learned early to stay on high alert, about emotions that feel overwhelming because they've been amplified by experiences that made the world feel unsafe. If you grew up in an environment where emotions were unpredictable, where you had to monitor the emotional weather of everyone around you just to survive, your sensitivity might be a scar as much as a gift. Your tears might be tangled up with old fear, old hypervigilance, old pain that never got the space it needed. This doesn't make your crying less valid. It makes it more complicated. It means your tears might be carrying more than just the present moment. They might be expressing something that's been waiting a long time to be felt. And if that's true for you, then your crying isn't weakness. It's courage. It's your psyche insisting on being heard after years of being silenced. But whether your tears come from sensitivity or from survival, from presence or from the past, the response from the world is often the same. Discomfort, distance, the subtle or not so subtle message that you need to get yourself under control. Because here's what really happens when someone cries in front of us. We become aware of our own emotional capacity, or lack of it. We're confronted with the reality that feeling is always happening, always available, and we've chosen, consciously or not, to keep it at bay. And when we see someone who hasn't made that choice, who is letting themselves feel fully in real time, it can feel like an accusation, like proof that we've been numbing ourselves. This is why people who cry easily are often told they're too sensitive. Not because their sensitivity is actually excessive, but because it exceeds the tolerance of the people around them. The too much isn't about them. It's about the discomfort of witnessing someone refuse to perform the kind of emotional containment we've all been taught is necessary. And so the labels accumulate. Over-emotional, dramatic, a crier. Words that sound descriptive but function as dismissals. Words that suggest the problem is with the person crying, not with a culture that has pathologized one of the most fundamental human responses to being alive. But strength isn't the absence of tears. Strength is the ability to let yourself be moved, to let your heart break open again and again without hardening, to feel the full weight of the world and not turn away from it. That there's a kind of strength in shutting down, in building walls, in keeping yourself so tightly controlled that nothing can get in. But there's a different kind of strength in staying open, in allowing yourself to be soft in a world that demands hardness, in trusting that you can feel everything and not be destroyed by it. People who cry easily know something that others have forgotten. They know that tears don't make you fragile. Pretending you don't need to cry, that's what makes you fragile. That's what makes you brittle. Because emotions that aren't expressed don't disappear. They just go underground. They become the tension you carry in your body, the irritability you can't explain, the exhaustion that no amount of sleep seems to fix. When you let yourself cry, you're not falling apart. You're preventing yourself from breaking. You're choosing integration over fragmentation. You're saying yes to the fullness of your experience instead of trying to edit it down into something more acceptable. And your capacity to cry easily is often connected to your other capacities. Your ability to feel joy isn't separate from your ability to feel sorrow. Your empathy, your creativity, your depth of connection, these don't exist in isolation from your tears. They're part of the same system, the same openness, the same refusal to live at a distance from your own life. This is what people miss when they judge emotional expression. They see the tears and assume fragility, when what they're actually witnessing is resilience. The resilience to feel without defending, to experience without controlling, to be changed by what moves you instead of insisting that you remain unchanged. That you are not broken because you cry easily. You are not weak because your eyes fill with tears when you encounter beauty, or pain, or truth. You're not too much. You're exactly enough. You're responding to the world with the honesty that most people have trained themselves out of. And maybe, in the end, the question isn't why you cry so easily. Maybe the question is why we've built a world that treats tears like a problem to be solved instead of a language to be understood. Why we've come to see emotional expression as something that needs to be managed, controlled, minimized. Maybe the question is what we've lost in all our attempts to keep ourselves composed, because there's something water does that stone cannot. Water moves. Water changes. Water carves canyons and nourishes roots and reflects the sky. Stone endures. Yes. Stone lasts. But stone doesn't grow. Stone doesn't transform. Stone doesn't feel. And you were not meant to be stoned. You were meant to be moved. To let the world touch you. To cry when something is beautiful, when something is sad, when something is so achingly human that your body has no choice but to respond. This is not your weakness. This is your wholeness. This is you refusing to amputate the parts of yourself that feel too intensely for a culture that has confused numbness with strength. That's so when your eyes fill with tears at a moment that others might dismiss, when you feel that familiar tightness in your throat during a conversation that struck something true, when you find yourself crying and you don't even fully know why, you don't need to apologize. You don't need to explain. You don't need to make yourself smaller or quieter or less affected by the enormity of being alive. You not too much. The world has simply become too little, too defended, too afraid of its own depth. And your tears are a reminder that there's another way, that it's possible to stay tender, to remain open, to let yourself be broken open by beauty and sorrow and truth, and to trust that this breaking open is not destruction, that it's how the light gets into.